17 into seconds. Clark, catch and shoots. Big triple.
Bucket. ATO. Big timeout for the Fever.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Stephanie White has done it again. It feels like every game there's something that leaves me shaking my head. The Indiana Fever picked up a win over the Connecticut Sun, and yes, a victory is a victory. However, I'm looking at the bigger picture. What stood out to me more than anything was the offensive system. The more I watch this motion offense, the more convinced I become that it's designed primarily to benefit Kelsey Mitchell. Everything seems to flow in a way that puts her in favorable positions, and it's becoming increasingly obvious with each game. Now, don't get me wrong, the Fever earned an 85-75 victory. They secured the double-digit win I wanted to see. But just because they won by 10 points doesn't mean I'm celebrating. This wasn't the type of dominant performance that makes me feel confident about the team's direction. It was a game they were expected to win against Connecticut, and they simply took care of business. Nothing more, nothing less. The final score was 85-75, and Caitlin Clark once again delivered when the team needed her most. It seems like every game she finds a way to make a significant impact, regardless of what's happening around her. Despite the criticism and what I believe have been questionable coaching decisions at times, Clark continues to produce at a high level. Statistically, the Fever shot 49% from the field and 41% from beyond the three-point line. Those are respectable numbers. The offense had some strong moments, but the game was far from perfect. The officiating certainly didn't help, especially in the second half. Several calls left fans confused and frustrated. Then we get to the part that bothered me the most: turnovers. I've been talking about this issue all season, and once again it showed up. The Fever committed 19 turnovers, while the Connecticut Sun had only 9. That's a huge gap. Against stronger opponents, that kind of mistake count can easily cost you a game. Rebounding was another concern. While Indiana performed well in certain areas, they still surrendered 26 offensive rebounds. It feels like every time they solve one problem, another one emerges. One major positive was Sophie Cunningham. Returning from injury, she immediately made an impact. Cunningham finished with 11 points and brought much-needed energy to the floor. It's funny because people were discussing her elbow injury not long ago, and now she's back out there scoring as if nothing ever happened. She stepped up and provided a spark exactly when Indiana needed one. From the moment she entered the game, she looked aggressive, confident, and ready to contribute in any way possible. Looking at the box score, there are several numbers worth discussing. As the game entered its final moments, Caitlin Clark was sitting at 19 points. By the end of the night, she had finished with 25. That's an impressive performance by any standard. Clark shot 10-4-17 from the field and 5-4-10 from three-point range, good for 50% from deep. She also added 5 assists and 3 rebounds, though she finished with 6 turnovers. The turnovers stand out, but it's important to remember that Clark has the ball in her hands constantly. She's always looking to create opportunities for herself and her teammates. Because of that, she's probably going to average around 5 turnovers per game. Now let's talk about Kelsey Mitchell. Mitchell finished with 19 points, but she shot just 2-for-9 from beyond the arc. That's another difficult shooting night from three-point range. This is where my frustration comes in. The more I watch this offense, the more convinced I become that the entire system revolves around Kelsey Mitchell. Everything appears designed to get her involved, and I don't understand why the team leans so heavily into that approach. To me, it doesn't look like this team is fully committed to building around Caitlin Clark. You may disagree, but that's how it appears from my perspective. If the goal is truly to maximize Clark's potential, then why return to an offensive scheme that repeatedly takes the ball out of her hands? Why move away from the things that clearly work? That's the question I keep coming back to. Clark finished the game with a +15 rating while playing 36 minutes. Those are outstanding numbers. Once again, she delivered what looks like another MVP-caliber performance. Despite the ongoing criticism of the coaching staff and the constant debates surrounding Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark continues to produce at an elite level.
Caitlin Clark and Layla kind of a little physical. It looks like Caitlin Clark is bleeding. Is that blood? Look at that, chat. They arms got tangled. It kind of looked like Caitlin Clark was bleeding though, right? I don't know, y'all.
Those fans were engaged throughout most of the game, although things seemed to quiet down a bit in the fourth quarter. They were probably fully focused on the action, because this was not a game the Fever could afford to lose against. The Connecticut Sun. One sequence that stood out involved Aliyah Boston missing another close-range shot near the basket. Misses happen, but they become more noticeable when the offense already feels disjointed. And honestly, that's my biggest frustration from tonight's game. The motion offense was incredibly difficult to watch. Pass, 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 swing the ball around, keep passing, and eventually someone takes a shot. It felt repetitive from start to finish. There were long stretches where nobody seemed interested in attacking immediately. Instead, the ball simply moved around the perimeter without much purpose. I even saw someone comment, "Just watch the fourth quarter. Stephanie White and Kelsey Mitchell will make sure Caitlin Clark doesn't finish as the team's leading scorer." Well, that prediction didn't age very well because Caitlin Clark still ended up leading all scorers. A quick shout out to Coach Anderson as well. He always brings an interesting perspective. One point that caught my attention was the suggestion that Stephanie White saw how effective the Aliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark two-player game was, and then moved away from it. Whether that's accurate or not, it's easy to understand why fans feel frustrated. When something consistently works, people naturally want to see more of it. Another fan described Stephanie White's motion offense as the basketball version of melatonin. That's a hilarious comparison, but I understand the point. The offense simply wasn't entertaining. It lacked flow, urgency, and excitement. Too often it felt like pass, 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 then shoot. Now, to be fair, the Fever still got the victory. They handled business and defeated the Connecticut Sun. For many fans, that's all that matters, and that's perfectly reasonable. Personally, though, I wanted more. I was hoping for a convincing win by at least 15 points. Maybe my expectations are high, but that's where I stand. Officiating remains another major talking point. One fan commented, "Caitlin gets bumped, grabbed, shoved, and hacked all game long." Meanwhile, a defender breathes near another player and the whistle blows. You can't make this stuff up. Whether you agree or not, many fans believe Caitlin Clark doesn't receive the calls she deserves. Compared to previous seasons, there is a growing perception that the officiating around her has been inconsistent. Before wrapping up, let's give some credit to Monique Billings. She was outstanding. Billings finished with 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists in 27 minutes. She posted a +18 rating, shot 60% from the field, and won a perfect 4 for 4 from the free throw line. That's exactly the kind of production you want from a role player. At the end of the day, the Fever defeated the Connecticut Sun, which is what they were expected to do. A win counts the same in the standings regardless of how it looks. Still, I'm not fully convinced by this motion offense. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Honestly, there were so many strange moments throughout this game. One example came when Caitlin Clark was elbowed in the face by Brittany Griner, yet the officials called a defensive foul on Clark. Then, on the very next possession, Clark ran into Griner, sold the contact, and an offensive foul was called. The sequence left plenty of fans confused. Shortly afterward, Caitlin knocked down a three-pointer to extend the lead. However, the Fever once again struggled to protect their advantage. At one point, Indiana led by double digits, but Connecticut battled all the way back. In fact, the Sun briefly reclaimed the lead late in the game. This has become a recurring issue. The Fever continue building 10-point leads only to let opponents back into games. Over their recent stretch, they've repeatedly blown double-digit advantages before eventually recovering to win. It's a strange pattern, especially considering they're on a winning streak. Still, when everything is said and done, a win is a win. The Fever got the result they needed, and that's ultimately what matters most.